your latest news update from Western Mass News.
I'm Chris Pisano with a look at your headlines. Two Springfield men are now facing multiple charges after police witnessed them breaking and entering into an apartment. Thursday night, police responded to a vacant apartment on Marion Street. When officers arrived to the scene, they saw a person later identified as 33-year-old Jasu Sierra Fonseca open a locked door from inside the apartment and attempting to run away. He was then taken into custody. During a search of the apartment, police found a large capacity gun loaded with 15 rounds of ammunition, 171 bags of heroin, 95 pills filled with cocaine, and more than $100 in cash. They also found 63-year-old Juan Maldonado, who locked himself in the bathroom. Both men are now facing a slew of charges. The Munson Fire Department is inching closer to starting a multi-million-dollar renovation project to fix up their firehouse. On May 8th, residents voted yes on option E, one of 9 options the department put forth to have their firehouse renovated, sending the matter to a final vote in the town election next month. This $6.6 million plan would include a new living quarter and a new operations center as part of a 2-story addition on the left-hand side. There would also be 3 new bays for vehicles and equipment. An exciting weekend in Western Mass between the world's largest pancake breakfast and the Westfield International Air Show. Officials from Barnes telling Western Mass News that the base hosted 70,000 total people between Saturday and Sunday's air shows. For comparison, the 2017 show, the last time it was held, had 92,000 people.
I'm meteorologist Jana Brown with a check of your forecast. We have dry and breezy conditions on tap for both Tuesday and Wednesday. Fire weather watch has been issued for almost all of southern New England. That does include all of us here in Western Mass. We're expecting winds sustained at about 10 to 20 miles an hour both days, with gusts either to 30 or 35 miles an hour, possibly a few isolated higher gusts, plus very low relative humidities the next 2 days. Now for Tuesday, we're expecting a warmer afternoon, temperatures climbing into the low 80s after starting off milder in the morning. We'll start off with some scattered to patchy clouds and then see some good sunshine through the afternoon, but we may be a little smoky from time to time, a little bit of veiled sunshine due to wildfire smoke out across western Canada. A cold front comes in Tuesday night. Once we get behind that front, which has no wet weather with it, will be much cooler for Wednesday. Highs only in the low 60s, blustery but sunny. And then Wednesday night, temperatures could drop down below freezing. Thursday, we're back to the high 60s, and Friday dry with a high of 72. We're mild for the weekend or seasonable, and we do have showers on the way for late Saturday into early Sunday, and then dry and a bit warmer for next week.
Stay with Western Mass News on air, online, and on our app throughout the day for breaking news, weather, and exclusive content.